Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Almassian. If you are a Lebanese, if you are a Palestinian, if you're a Syrian, you remember very well Sabra and Shatila massacres that happened in September 1982, in which around 3,500 Palestinians and Lebanese were massacred by pro Israeli militias in Lebanon back then. And one of the first people who reported about this case was Elijah Magnier. He is a veteran war correspondent and political analyst with over 35 years of experience in West Asia. And today I'm pleased and honored to have him again on my channel, Syriana Analysis. Thank you very much, Elijah, for being my guest today to discuss the Gaza war. I think you are the perfect analyst to speak about this case, but I'm being very honest with you. I see a difference of approach from your side since the October 7th of attacks and the hostilities that happened between the both sides. The last time we had a conversation was on October 21st, 2023. I realized a change of approach or a change in of tone from your side toward Israel since then. One may argue that you are more critical nowadays in attacking Israel than on the 7th of October or what happened after 2nd of October. And you're more confident as well of the ability of the Palestinian armed factions to emerge victorious. Today, I was reading a recent tweet of you on X, and this is what you said. You said, before 7th of October, I considered an illusion that Israel could one day be defeated. Listening to the resistance members repeat this narrative, I never believed it. Now I do. Israel is contributing to building a solid Palestinian resistance that will one day defeat it. Elijah, what has changed since the October 7th attacks till today? And do you see that you also had now a different approach and different tone toward Israel and more confident that the Israelis will survive this onslaught against them?
Thank you for having me. First of all, I am someone who really supports a state of law and would like to live in a state where there is a respect of international laws. Now, of course, people might argue that some laws are there to be broken or to go around them. However, what we have seen in such an obvious way of the Israeli army, the Israeli politicians coming out on televisions, on videos, not only on social media, but coming out to the press and saying, we are going to commit genocide against the Palestinian populations, that these are not human, demonizing the Palestinian people. Consider there are no innocent in Gaza, and saying that we are going to cut water, electricity, food supply, and everything on Gaza, bombing hospitals, universities, schools, justice building, infrastructure, in such a way, flooding tunnels so they can also affect the water supply in well, and really bulldozing complete neighborhood. I think that it is a real crime to stand with these people. If you support international law, you cannot stand with Israel. If you are against crimes against humanity, you cannot support Israel. And if you are against war crimes, it is inevitable that you stand against Israel. And this is where there is no place for being ambiguous about it or taking a neutral position, because it means either you are part of it and you agree with it, or you stand against it. Well, as a human being, I cannot agree with that. And I cannot agree with such injustice. Otherwise, I will be supporting the Israelis in what they are doing. And I do not support the killing of more than 12,000 children and women. And now the number is always increasing, a total number of 22,000 people, regardless those under the rubble. and 57,000 wounded. Again, we don't know how many still are buried, and it is not going to be possible to recover them unless the war stops, and then there are serious rescue operation going on to remove all the debris and be able to give the population, to their families at least, the possibility to bury their dear one. So this is why I think I took a stand with the humanity, not necessarily only with the Palestinians, but with any oppressed people around the world faced with such a destructive machine and supported by international community, mainly a superpower like the United States and several European leaders. That's one. Two, after the 7th of October and following the 88 days of war, Israel has failed to achieve any of its declared objectives. In the military terms, an army can suffer casualties and accept the number of casualties if these casualties lead to the achievement of objectives that will improve the life of the civilians that belong to that army. We have seen so far today, the Haaretz came out with an article. Israel has suffered more than 10,500 wounded, and the Israeli army is acknowledging only 1,500. The Israeli army saying that we have lost more than 510 soldiers and officers killed in the battlefield since the 7th of October. Assuming this is right, all these figures are useless if the objectives are not met. Of course, the Israeli army has earned brilliantly the title of the best child killer army in the world, and not really the army that can destroy a city, because any army can destroy a city, but not any army can kill more than 12,000 children in less than 57 days of battles or 88 days of war.
Elijah, as a veteran war correspondent, what is your definition of defeat for Israel? If Israel is going to be defeated in Gaza, how can we define the defeat? What are the parameters of defeat here? Is it that Israel cannot reach its declared goals, or it's something else?
The first thing is to fail to reach the objectives. And these objectives are the defeat of Hamas. Second is the freedom for the prisoners. Now, defeating Hamas means, according to the United Nations Article 51, the Palestinian people are the resistance, because the Israelis are considered legally as an occupation force. Hamas lives in Gaza. Gaza and the West Bank are territories without access, free access to land, sea, and water without the permission or going through Israel. This is why they are occupied, and the force that occupy them is indeed, according to international law, as an occupation forces. That was recognized by Ariel Sharon in 2003, the Israeli late prime minister, and by US President Barack Obama in 2013. By not reaching the objective of defeating the resistance, it means the resistance cannot be defeated, which is a normal conclusion, because no resistance in the world has ever been defeated by an occupation force. Look at what happened in the Second World War in Europe, how Germany failed to occupy all the European states without being confronted by a resistance that harassed the German army all the time, every single day, inflicting casualties. Now, these casualties means that the army, the occupation force, cannot rest, and it's always on alert and can be hit anywhere. The resistance developed methods to hit this army at the condition that this army comes into the city and establish itself in the city. This is why the Palestinian resistance has been asking and begging and praying for the Israeli army to come into Gaza, So they are in close contact with the resistance, because once they are in close contact, then the artillery, the air force, and the navy can no longer bomb in the vicinity of the Israeli occupation forces are operated. Otherwise, they would hit their own people, which has happened in several occasions in this war. This is why, by not having the superiority in with the air force and with the artillery, then this is where the resistance, with very little means, because they are facing tens of thousands of Israeli soldiers with high technology and very well equipped, and with endless supply of ammunition and intelligence that is provided by the Americans and the British and the French and the German. So for the resistance to be able to engage with this army, and for this army to be able to declare they cannot defeat the resistance, occupy an area, declare it occupied and under control, like the Israelis did in Jabalia, in Ash-Shati, in so many other areas, Beit Hanun, in Hujr in the north, then they pull out. That means they're not under control. And the most ridiculous part is when it comes from the Israeli defense minister, Yoav Gallant, saying, well, we have finished our mission in the north and we pulled out. Now, either he's making fun of the people, or he is completely unconscious about what he's saying. You can't say that I finished my operation and I pulled out, and the resistance is still hitting you exactly where you are. And on the New Year Eve, they launched dozens of missiles against Tel Aviv exactly at midnight to tell you that you have not crippled the power of the resistance and its capability. That is when an army is defeated. So no defeat for the resistance, and Hamas is not defeated. And the second point, no freedom for the prisoners. The only prisoners that managed to return to Israel were corpses, because they were killed by the Israeli bombardments. And the others at the beginning were civilian exchanged with Hamas. So also this second objective has not been met. On the whole, speaking, why Israel has been defeated? Because it is not offering security to its people. And the reason why all the tens of thousands of settlers left all the area around Gaza, that is called the envelope of Gaza, is because Hamas attacked them and they felt insecure. If the operation of the Israeli occupation forces end without defeating Hamas, it means they have not provided the security requested by the settlers. It is Edom for the northern front with Lebanon, where Hezbollah is engaging with the Israelis. So that is a defeat for the Israeli army.
Mhm. Guys, it goes without saying that I already put the X account of Elijah in the description below, and also his own website where he publishes regularly about the current geopolitical crisis, especially in West Asia. I would really appreciate it if you follow him on X, and also to his work on his website, where he is presenting valuable information and valuable analysis, in my opinion, that can be an eye-opening for you if you are trying to understand West Asia, or what is called the Middle East, especially that he has all these years of experience on the ground in these countries, and he has been reporting from there. Elijah, I'm going to show again the audience of what you wrote here. Again, recently you said, so you said it is clear that now that Netanyahu can achieve two objectives in this war in Gaza: one, keep the unity of his government's coalition, and two, stay in power. Hamas can't be defeated, and all Israeli prisoners freed by military action were killed and returned as corpses. I mean, here I have to bring the argument of the critics, and the critics say, unlike previous wars, Netanyahu is ready to sacrifice more of his soldiers to achieve the ethnic cleansing goal in Gaza. So the question here would be, how long can Hamas fight? Israel says the war will go on in 2020 during the 2024, and critics are telling me Hamas doesn't have reinforcement and everywhere is besieged and they can't have ammunition. So how long can they fight? And this confidence of Hamas can't be defeated. Don't you think it contradicts Hamas's inability to get reinforcement in terms of ammunition, weapons, and also in terms of manpower?
We have seen how the Palestinian resistance, um, because there are 5 groups operating in Gaza, but not only Hamas, are using artillery shells and bombs, unexploded bombs dropped from the Israeli jets against the Israeli occupation forces, which means that the Palestinian resistance had enough time to go and collect the devices, to demount them, and to prepare them to be used as traps against the Israelis, which this is exactly what they have done. We saw on a video how the Palestinian used some of non-explosive devices, particularly the artillery shells, to bomb a command and control, an advanced Israeli command and control center in the north of Gaza. And we have seen how Hamas has used also 2 bombs as traps, attracting the Israelis in the house and blowing up the entire house on their heads. So that indicates that the resistance has the resistance resources never end, because they can kill a soldier, mount a trap against an Israeli patrol, take their weapons, manufacture weapons, because Hamas is very good in manufacturing all kinds of weapons using what they have locally. So there are so many means to harass the enemy and to use his own weapons against him, and to have so many spoils of war, particularly when in close combat. This is why we understand that the Israelis are no longer staying in one place. So they go and occupy the north, and then they pull out. They occupy part of Shujaiya camp, and then they pull out. Why? Because they can't stay. And if they can't stay, it means the resistance is still very healthy, because it is reacting, it is bombing, it is attacking. And we have seen so far how they are using RPG, or what they call a 105 Yasin propeller, because they can use it to inflict damage to the Israeli vehicles, armed vehicles. And also they are taking many individual and light weapons from the Israelis. They are killing, or they attack, and then they go again to exact same location where the Israeli were under attack, and see how they can clean the place and recover what the Israelis left behind. All that requires not only courage, but also a cool control and command. They are the owners of the land. They know how to move. They're monitoring their enemy very closely. They know where to find them, how to hit them, and how to return to the same scene they blew up, and then see what remained there. All that is the job of the resistance. So what Netanyahu managed to do, the question is not for how long Hamas can last in this war. A resistance can last forever, as long as there is an occupier. The question is how long Israel can last in Gaza. That's the first question. Secondly, why did I say that Netanyahu is aiming for 2 objectives: to stay in power and to keep the coalition, and the other way around? To keep the coalition is necessary for him to stay in power. And to keep the coalition, he needs to satisfy the 2 ministers of security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, and of finance, Smotrich, because they threatened him to resign and to break the government if he stops the war. Therefore, Netanyahu cannot stop the war. He's trying to continue the war in a different way. So he's trying to minimize the casualties of his soldiers. Otherwise, the population will start asking him, what on earth is he doing if he is not defeating Hamas? Why he's sending all the Israelis to war when the objective is not met? This is why he is dismissing between 100 and 120,000 reservists under the excuse of reboosting the economy that can suffer between 18 to 58 billion dollars because of this war. It is because he can no longer give answers to why Israelis are falling on the battlefield when he is not achieving the objectives, he's not defeating Hamas, and he's not releasing the prisoners.
Wow. Elijah, that's very interesting perspective from the angle that you're seeing it. I have not thought about that, to be honest with you. And nowadays, we can also see that this rhetoric of Israel is also heading toward Lebanon. And you also extensively covered this case. Today, I was reading a few Israeli reports. This is Lieberman. Lieberman says that they have to reoccupy southern Lebanon for 50 years. Even the Israeli, the Times of Israel called him hawkish. Hawkish opposition MK Avigdor Lieberman calls for Israel to reoccupy southern Lebanon, saying the country must pay in territory for damage caused by Hezbollah strikes on Israel's northern towns. The former defense minister says Israel's military must close off a swath of southern Lebanon and push the terror group north of the Litani River, even if it means 50 years of occupation. We have also Gallant. Gallant expressed similar opinion in this regard. He says, we will push Hezbollah beyond Litani River before residents of northern Israel return home. He says Defense Minister Yoav Gallant meets mayors and heads of councils located near the Lebanon border in the north, promising them that their communities evacuated since frequent border skirmishes began in October in the shadow of the war against Hamas will not be returned home until the Iran-backed Hezbollah terror group is driven north of the Litani River. Your take on this case was people do not understand that Hezbollah has no force to withdraw from southern Lebanon. Look at the funerals of the over 100 fighters killed in the last 80 days. They were all buried in different villages in South Lebanon along the borders because that is where they live. You also say Israel and the US are shooting themselves in the foot by threatening Hezbollah to withdraw or face a wider war in Lebanon. This is a naive demand and will never happen. If this is a naive demand and will never happen, what do you expect from the American and the Israeli side to do next? Because this talk is not only now exclusive in the Israeli and American media, but also, we have to be honest, in Lebanon, the allies of Israel, they have activated their, let's say, rhetoric against Hezbollah again, and they're posting pictures on social media claiming that they found rockets among the buildings, and they're doing the propaganda of Israel in this regard, right?
So first of all, we need to make clear distinctions between what is a wishful thinking and what is a possibility that can be reached on the ground. Now, Avigdor Lieberman is not in power, and the Israelis are very well known to be a chatterbox. So they can say whatever they want, and they exceed in expressing what this and that should be done. Let's go to the reality. Gallant, the defense minister, is certainly not the first minister of defense of Israel who sets objectives that are impossible to achieve. In 2006, his predecessor declared that he prepared a jail for Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, and then his prime minister, Ehud Olmert, ended up himself in jail, but not Nasrallah. So we should not really pay attention to what they say, but to look at the facts and reality. We have seen in the last around a bit less than 90 days, since the 8th of October, every single day, Hezbollah has fired either anti-tank laser-guided missile, or they have fired they launched suicide drones against the Israelis, or they launched a Burkan rocket of 500 kilos of explosive. Now, in the first place, the laser-guided missiles, the Hezbollah showed to have the most modern one that can reach up to 8 kilometers. That means a Merkava 4, the most advanced Israeli tank, has a cannon range of 4 kilometers, which means before they step into Lebanon in 1 meter, they will be destroyed 8 kilometers away from any position of Hezbollah.
Are these Cornet missiles? Are these Cornet rockets, Elijah?
They are Cornet. The most advanced Cornet version can reach between 7 to 8 kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the objective of invading Lebanon is really not on the table, because physically the Israeli army is not capable of invading Lebanon. The only thing the Israeli army can do is to bomb Lebanon. That's for sure. However, we have seen how Hezbollah has also rockets of half a ton to 2 tons that they haven't used yet, and against the Israelis that can also inflict heavy casualties on the Israelis and destruction that the Israelis never seen before. Another point is that all the precision guided missiles of Hezbollah, starting from Fateh 110 to Fateh 313, to other missiles that Hezbollah has of solid fuel, which means easily to deploy and fire, it's all outside the range of the civilian population, and it is an area where it is not populated, but can easily reach Haifa and Tel Aviv. And Haifa and Tel Aviv are within 20 to 60 kilometers from the Lebanese borders, which means the missiles that Hezbollah has that can reach up to 400 kilometers lead us to believe that all the geography occupied by Israel can be bombed. Now, Hezbollah doesn't need to bomb the Negev desert or anything, or Eilat, for example. It's suffice to bomb Haifa and Tel Aviv, the gas and oil platform, the harbor of Haifa and Ashdod, and the airport, to cripple the entire Israeli economy and to destroy its infrastructure with precision missile and with drones, with
kamikaze drones. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So this is why it is not possible for the Israeli to invade Lebanon, and what is said is not correct.
Mm-hmm. I just want to ask a follow-up question here. We know that the drone technology is mostly from Iran, but the Cornet rockets, those are Russian weaponry, right? And Syrians have a lot of them. Is Hezbollah getting this type of weaponry from Syria, or it's a different sources?
From all sources. Syria has contributed since 2006 to deliver Hezbollah the Cornet to Hezbollah and to Hamas also. So yes, the Cornet was delivered to Syria, like the Yahunt was delivered to Syria, that surface-to-surface missile, and Hezbollah has it, plus other more modern missiles that are used, that Hezbollah can use.
Yeah. Guys, you are asking who are the Lebanese groups who support Israel. They don't directly support Israel, but they do support Israel tacitly. And one of which is, I would say, the Phalanges, the Phalanges group, and the other one is the Lebanese forces. And those are the same groups who committed the Sabra and Shatila massacre, if I'm not mistaken, in 1982, right, Elijah?
That's correct.
That's correct, and they were allied back then also with Israel. Now, in your recent article, Elijah, I will show the article that you publish in your website. This is the article. This is, guys, from his website, as you can see from Elijah, agmagnier.com. Palestinian resistance marks New Year with a defiant message to Israel. The Palestinian resistance in the Gaza Strip distinctively began the new year, launching dozens of rocket attacks on Tel Aviv and its surroundings. This offensive struck at the heart of Israel's military operations, which have been going on for about 3 months. The barrage sent a clear message to the Israeli government, army, and the settlers that their forces had failed to achieve their objectives, underlined by the fact that the majority of the rockets came from northern Gaza. The Israeli army had previously claimed this area as under its control and occupation. As a result, the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is facing significant embarrassment, not only in front of its settler population, but also in the eyes of its principal ally, the United States. Guys, the rest of the article is in the description if you like to read this. But I would like to ask here, Elijah, like taking from what you said in this article, don't you think the Israeli failure and embarrassment is directly proportional to Israel's desire to escalate historically and thus increase the risk of regional war in this regard?
Well, Israel, it is in the advantage of Israel to expand this war and to divert the attention of the world away from the Palestinian cause. By dragging Iran or Hezbollah in a war directly, and the Houthis or the Iraqis, the Israelis would like to show that it is under attack by Iran and its allies. So the world stops supporting the Palestinian cause. This is why, from the second day after the 7th of October, so that's the 8th of October, Hezbollah announced that it is supporting Gaza when Netanyahu declared war on Gaza. This is why the Houthis in Yemen closed Bab al-Mandeb, saying if Gaza is under siege, then the Israeli shipment supply will be halted and will not be permitted. If Israel lifts the siege on Gaza and stop the war, then all the shipments heading toward Israeli harbor of Ashdod can cross the Red Sea. And the same the Iraqis did by attacking a US position in Iraq and in Syria by saying, again, this is the support for Gaza. So nobody wants the Israelis nobody wants to play in the hand of the Israelis, and nobody wants to start the war in the name of something else than the Palestinian cause that has gained support throughout the world, regardless of the leadership, but the world population is standing with Palestine because it's a just cause. You cannot murder people on television and brag about doing what you are doing and saying, yes, this is, I offer to my 2 years old daughter a gift and destroy a couple of buildings that belong to Palestinian families, or saying, well, I didn't find any Palestinian child to kill, so I found only two guys of 12-year-old in the street and I shot them and I killed them and I'm looking for small baby to kill, and you say that on the television and you push it and put it on social media, or you say we have to exterminate all the Palestinians and get away with it. Now, how the axis of the resistance and all those who support the Palestinian cause can afford divert the attention of the world from the real cause of the problem, which is not religious, which is only the existence of the Palestinian people on their stolen land. That is the problem.
Guys, this is the map of the blockade that the Houthis imposed in the Red Sea, in Bab el-Mandeb, and you can see how these cargo ships are no more able to go there, and they have imposed this siege in order to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. They are putting pressure. I would say this is a tangible support that they are doing. And yesterday, I think yesterday or the day before, the U.S. Navy force, they clashed with the Houthis at the Red Sea, and they killed a few fighters from the Houthis. And there are more.
I just received a message from a contact of mine that Israel assassinated Hamas leader Aruri in Beirut with
Wow.
a drone. I don't know if it has this has been out on social media or not.
I
But
will check. And this is happening in southern Lebanon or
in a suburb of Beirut, in the
Yes.
area where
So
it is.
yes, it happened. It happened just 3 minutes ago. Israel bombs Beirut. 4 reportedly killed and many injured. This is a declaration of war on Lebanon. We will now see if Hezbollah responds. This is coming from Robert Inkladesh right now. I will just try to verify this on different
It's
sources.
confirmed by my
It's
source.
confirmed. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's confirmed. So I will just show the face of the Hamas leader who was
Saleh
assassinated
Al-Arabi.
now. This is him, Saleh
Yes,
Al-Arouri. He was
yes.
assassinated by
It
an
is a
Israeli drone strike in Beirut.
yeah.
And this is the car coming from Sayyid Mohammed Marandi. I will just show this video to the audience. Let's see what's happening here.
This is what Netanyahu wants.
Mhm.
He wants any victory.
This is
However,
in Dahieh.
yeah, in Dahi. This is the message that I received from one of my contacts
Mhm.
in Dahi.
Yeah, this is the news. This is also reports from Lebanese news agency. An Israeli drone targeted a car in Musharrafiyah, south of Beirut, leaving a number of wounded. Reports of an attack on Hamas headquarters and possible assassination of the deputy head of Hamas, Sheikh Saleh Al-Arouri.
Yeah.
So this is an assassination right now in Beirut. People probably think that Hezbollah may act on a reaction, right? Like quick reactions. I don't think Hezbollah reacts that way, right? They would make a calculated response to that.
No, they can't. They have to react because this is the rule of engagement with the Israelis. If you allow them to get away with it, next day they will kill another and then another and then another. The reaction will be very harsh, and the Hezbollah will react very quickly. I don't think we have to wait for very long and by several attacks. And the Israelis are aware of it. So it will not be a war between Hezbollah and Israel, but it will be a response to one of the leaders of the Palestinian resistance who was assassinated in a sovereign country by Israel that has no right to carry out assassination attacks. And this is why I think Hezbollah will respond very harshly.
This is the rules of engagement that you were mentioning after the October 7th. There was a rule of engagement that the Hezbollah and the Israeli side, they were firing the rockets or let's say the missiles. What was the range? 12, 15 kilometers? And now this is in
Well,
Beirut.
it was 3 to 5.
Mhm.
And then the Israelis yesterday exceeded that. And this is why, if you look at my timeline on Twitter, yesterday I made a tweet in this regard. And 21 hours ago, I said an increasingly tense front is opening up between Israel and Hezbollah, where the Israelis are hitting unexpected targets in the
Yes.
depth of the country. That was
Uh,
yesterday. That was
yes.
20 at 7:56 p.m.
I'm checking that what you posted yesterday, and this is very serious because I've been to Beirut and I know that where Dahiya is located, and now Hezbollah is has to respond based on the rules of engagement that you mentioned in this regard, and this could also make the Israeli side say that I'm going to retaliate again, and this time probably they bomb Beirut. This is the Dahiya guys in the southern part of Beirut, and this will trigger a discussion in Lebanon that some of the people say we don't want war, and others say that we have to respond. And Lebanon is a divided country, right?
Yeah, but in this case, there is no really any weight for what the Lebanese, those who are against Hezbollah, can say or might say, or the pressure that they would put because now it is state of war, and Hezbollah will not take into consideration what they say or any of narrative they want to push, because it is a question of survival. If you allow the Israeli to continue, if you allow the Israeli to get away with it and respond softly, then the Israeli will say, well, we can afford such a response, and then we continue, and next day they will target another of Hamas leaders or another of Hezbollah leaders. So they are breaking the rule of engagement that they have been established for years between Israel and Hezbollah. And returning to the assassination in Dahi is something that Benjamin Netanyahu is dragging Israel into the consequences by making sure that his two coalition members, but opponent in the objectives, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, are satisfied that he is taking steps, and taking radical steps, and he is indeed going for assassination to satisfy the people in Israel. But let us be honest, Saleh al-Aruri is not the one that Hamas consider is going to win or lose this war if he is killed. If Hani and Muhammad al-Daif or Yahya Sinwar or Khalid Mish'al or any of the Hamas leadership are killed in this war, or even tomorrow, nothing is going to change in Gaza. The war will continue, and the resistance will reply harsher than before.
Yeah, this is something that lots of people do not know, that these groups are not based and built on one person or two person or three people or four people. And when somebody is assassinated, another person will come and replace it. It's just a continuation of the same struggle, in my opinion. Elijah, thank you very much, really, for tuning in on Syriana Analysis today. It was an interesting time, I would say, just at the moment of this assassination. For a long time, I haven't turned on my TV. I will turn on some of my Arabic TV now, try to see what's happening in Beirut. I hope everybody in Dahiya is safe. And we have friends in Beirut, we have colleagues in Beirut. I hope everybody is safe. Guys, thank you very much also for tuning in on Syriana Analysis. As I told you, the X account of Elijah in the description below, also his website in the description below. And if you like to support my independent work, the one that I'm doing like this, you can support my work as well by becoming a patron. The link is scrolling now on the screen, www.patreon.com/Syriana Analysis. Elijah, thank you very much again. I will have you soon, inshallah, again on my channel.
My pleasure.